In 1968, a year of protest and upheaval, not unlike our own times, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Whenever you are engaged in work that serves humanity and is for the building of humanity, it has dignity and it has worth." Dr. King spoke those words in Memphis, Tennessee, where he had traveled to support striking sanitation workers and their campaign for good pay and benefits and respect on the job.
Hi, I'm Nana Watson, president of your Columbus NAACP. Dr. King said with Selma and the Voting Rights Bill, one era of our struggle came to a close and a new era came into being. Now our struggle is for genuine equality, which means economic equality. We still have some work to do when it comes to protecting voter rights, but in the Central Ohio Workers Center video, we focus on some of the ways we can work toward economic equality. Civil rights and economic rights have always gone hand in hand, and that's especially true during this pandemic that has hit Black and low-income communities so hard. Let's talk about what we can do about it.
The idea that every job has dignity, that we all deserve a paycheck that allows us to live a good life, the right to be treated with respect by our supervisors, managers, and the owners of the businesses that depend on us, these are values shared by all working people. And they are the values that unite us during a global pandemic that threatens our health, our paychecks, and our communities.
The Central Ohio Workers Center, or COWC for short, is committed to organizing and advocating on behalf of low-income and immigrant workers in our communities. As NAACP President Nana Watson said, this COWC video focuses on economic equality, and in particular, the barriers to achieving it, the laws that can help us secure it, and what you can do in your workplace and neighborhood to win it. We hope that you find this information useful, and we invite you to join us in the effort to win economic justice for all working people in our communities.
You're supposed to get paid for all the hours you work. Your employer is required to pay you at least the minimum wage, and you get paid overtime when you work more than 40 hours in a work week. It's simple, right? It is simple because it's fair and it's the law. But unfortunately, too many working people are not paid all the wages they earn. When an employer refuses to pay an employee all their wages, it's called wage theft. You may not have heard the term wage theft before, but there is a good chance that you know someone who has experienced it. In fact, you may have experienced it yourself. Forms of wage theft include not receiving at least the minimum wage, taking employees' tips or failing to pay tipped workers the difference between the minimum wage and their tips, not receiving overtime pay for hours worked in excess of 40 hours during a work week, receiving only partial pay, illegal paycheck deductions, being forced to work off the clock, being misclassified as an independent contractor to avoid minimum wage, overtime, and other laws, or simply not being paid at all.
Wage theft occurs every day. It's happening to someone right now while you're watching this video. How big of a problem is wage theft? The current minimum wage in Ohio is $8.70 per hour for non-tipped employees and $4.35 for tipped employees. It's estimated that more than $600 million a year is stolen from Ohio workers in minimum wage violations alone. Wage theft also deprives Celebrate One and other communities of tax revenues for infrastructure, public investment, and social services.
If you're an hourly employee required to do extra work, like setting up before clocking in or cleaning up your work areas after your workday is over, you have the right to be paid for that time, even if your employer tells you that it's off the clock. If your employer refuses to pay, it may be wage theft. If your employer refuses to pay you at least the minimum wage, it's wage theft. If you work more than 40 hours in a work week, Eligible employees must be paid time and a half for hours over 40. If your employer refuses to pay it, you may be the victim of wage theft. Workers are often told that they aren't eligible for overtime because they are independent contractors, when in fact, they legally should be classified as an employee. And if you quit or you're fired from your job, you have a right to be paid for the hours worked.
Who are the victims of wage theft? Studies indicate that Black, brown, other people of color, young workers, women, and immigrants are more likely to experience wage theft because they are more likely to be in low-income jobs. The majority of workers who experience wage theft are over 25 and native-born United States citizens. Nearly half are white, more than a quarter have children, and more than half work full-time. Law-abiding businesses are also put at a disadvantage. In other words, wage theft affects all of us, and it is a barrier to economic equality. Therefore, all of us must work together to end wage theft. What can we do to fight back against wage theft in our communities?
Hi, I'm Rob Dorrance, member of Columbus City Council. Government needs to do everything it can to prevent wage theft. And most importantly, victims of wage theft need to raise their voices and organize to protect their own rights, their coworkers, and their communities. The Fair Labor Standards Act is a federal law that requires employers to pay no less than the minimum wage and overtime when eligible employees work more than 40 hours. In Ohio, we have a state wage and hour law with similar requirements. Wage theft is against the law, and it's illegal to retaliate against workers who report wage theft. The City of Columbus recently passed a strong new anti-wage theft law. It prevents businesses found guilty of committing wage theft from receiving city contracts and city financial incentives. The city will also refer victims of wage theft to federal and state authorities so they can obtain no-cost assistance to receive the money that they're owed.
COVID-19 has had a terrible impact on our communities. Folks have gotten sick, lost jobs, had their hours cut, and died because of the virus. We can feel cut off from our coworkers, friends, and families, but we're not powerless. And when we work together, we become stronger as individuals and as a community. There are laws that protect us when we demand that employers follow health and safety laws, and when we organize for better pay, benefits, and working conditions, including protections against COVID.
COVID-19 is a deadly and highly contagious virus. If people with serious medical issues or older people become infected, they are at a higher risk for serious complications and even death. In fact, anyone who becomes infected can become very sick, experience serious complications, and die from COVID-19. We may become infected by the virus and not know it, but we still can infect others even if we don't have any symptoms ourselves. As the number of hospitalized COVID-19 patients increases, our co-workers, neighbors, friends, and family members who need medical care for other reasons are placed at risk because their treatment may be delayed due to a shortage of hospital beds, staff, and other resources. COVID threatens our health, our jobs, and our neighborhoods. So, what can we do to protect ourselves and other people in our community?
Knowledge is power. It's important that all of us know our rights and how to enforce them. Under the Federal Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970, a covered employer must keep the workplace free of known health and safety hazards. As an employee, you have the right to speak up about health and safety hazards without fear of retaliation, and you can file complaints with the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which is known as OSHA, to enforce your rights. If possible, you should tell your employer about your concerns. If you believe your working conditions are unsafe, you may file a confidential complaint with OSHA. You ask OSHA to conduct a workplace inspection. You can call the Columbus OSHA office for answers to your questions and for assistance with filing a health or safety-related complaint or a whistleblower complaint if your employer retaliates against you. Your employer is prohibited from discriminating against you. That means firing you, disciplining you, cutting your pay, denying you a promotion, or retaliating against you in any way because you filed a safety or health complaint with OSHA, raised a health and safety concern with your employer, participated in an OSHA inspection, or reported a work-related injury or illness, consult OSHA about the strict timelines that apply to complaints. The Ohio Department of Health has issued mandatory COVID-19 guidelines that all reopened workplaces in our state must follow. If your workplace is not in compliance, you can take action to protect yourself, your coworkers, your friends, family members, and your community, and hold your employer accountable.
You can review the mandatory requirements for your job by visiting www.coronavirus.ohio.gov. Click on Responsible Restart Ohio, and then click on Sector-Specific Operating Requirements. If you don't see your industry or occupation, click on Primary Sector and locate guidelines there. For most jobs, the Ohio Department of Health requires masks and social distancing or barriers between employees when they are indoors, with limited exceptions. Check your job sector on the Ohio Department of Health's website to confirm the requirements for your workplace.
If your employer is located in Franklin County, Ohio, and not following Ohio's mask, social distancing, and other COVID-19 safety requirements, you and your coworkers have the right to file a complaint with the Franklin County Department of Health. You can file the complaint online by visiting www.myfcph.org. Click on Coronavirus Disease 2019, and then click on COVID-19 Complaint Form. You can file complaints anonymously or by using your own name. In addition to checking boxes that apply to your complaint, such as mask, social distancing, or hand sanitizer violations, the complaint form includes a comment box so you can provide more information. In most cases, a violation of Ohio's COVID-19 requirements will impact not just you, but also your coworkers. If that is the case, include information about how coworkers are impacted in the comments section. If you need assistance with filing a complaint, call the Franklin County Department of Health or contact the Central Ohio Worker Center at centralohioworkercenter@gmail.com.
One of the most important workplace laws is the National Labor Relations Act, or the NLRA. Signed into law by President Franklin Roosevelt in 1936 during the Great Depression after massive protests and strikes spanning nearly a century, the law recognizes the right of employees to form, join, or assist labor unions and to bring complaints and concerns about pay, benefits, health and safety issues, and other working conditions directly to their employer without fear of retaliation, discrimination, discipline, or discharge.
The NLRA protects collective action in the workplace. Your right to stand up for yourself and your coworkers, and their right to do the same for themselves and for you. The law basically protects your right to have your coworkers back on the job and vice versa. Examples of protected activity include talking with coworkers about the need for better working conditions, such as COVID-19 safety protections, circulating a petition demanding better pay, benefits, schedules, and effective health and safety protections, and joining with coworkers to talk directly to your employer about the need for improvements at work. The NLRA also protects your right to form a labor union, so you and your coworkers can use your collective strength to negotiate with your employer for better pay, benefits, and working conditions during the pandemic and beyond. Once a union has been certified or recognized, your employer is required to bargain over your terms and conditions of employment with your union, including pay and essential safety protections during the pandemic.
For more information about your rights under the NLRA, you can visit the NLRB's website at nlrb.gov or call 513-684-3686.
Studies prove that union members earn higher wages and receive better benefits and working conditions. Hourly wages for Black union workers are 14.7% higher than those of their non-union counterparts. Joining a union helps Black workers close the racial wealth gap in the United States. For Black workers, the increase in earnings, benefits, and employment stability from union representation translates to a higher likelihood of home ownership and larger contributions to 401k retirement plans.
Stopping wage theft, making sure we are safe at work, and using our collective voices and powers to reduce the racial wealth gap and achieve fairness on the job. This is what it would take to win racial and economic justice in our communities during the pandemic and beyond. We need to know our rights and enforce our rights and organize for social justice.
The Central Ohio Workers Center has made additional materials and resources available on its website at centralohioworkerscenter.org. Most importantly, we want to work with you on the workplace and community issues that matter to you. Please join COWC today or register for updates so we can stay in touch.